Well, the Boonboomger might continue. It can be me, but I truly feel this episode kind of feels underwhelming. Mainly because it's like we starting to get some lore drops, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. Why are you dropping lore in the final episode of the show? Like, couldn't you at least like drop it slightly before? Like, we get the hints of Spindo's first meeting with Grant, and it seemed that Grant was some sort of a wanderer, a man without a real land, and Spindo took him under his wing. And here's the thing, the episode tries to draw the connection between Spindo and Chashiro, and it's like, could have worked. But for this, for how the show actually did it, we never really got to see them interacting. So, like, the entire fight scene the two had felt way more the show trying to really convince us that Chashiro got redeemed, so he needs to defeat one of the bad guys in the next episode. Like, because the monkey is just a gas tank, because it's not a living being that eats. Let's not forget, like, a couple of episodes, that monkey ate. Shut up. It could have worked well if we got to know more about Grant before he, died. While learning more about Spindo would have worked because, to be honest, we got some interesting lore drops that worked. It's like, oh my god, you're actually interesting than just, oh, you're a villainous baddie with like a twirling mustache, but not real mustache. Getting to actually know Spindo's backstory before this episode would have worked to actually really draw an interesting connection with Taya, with Spindo coming from pretty much nothing and rising up to the top, while Taya at least came from a middle-class family and rising to the top. But both of them kind of did it on their own. So you can actually say that our main villain and our Red Ranger came kind of from the same cloth. And it's like the difference was where Taya grew up in, and what made the change for Taya was a negative experience that made him to be a better person, while Spindo never got that experience. He always was down. People always pushed him around, and no one came in to help him. So because of that, Spindo became a bad guy, and it could have worked well. It could have worked so much better. This actually could have worked for Spindo and actually like made our two final villains don't feel like cardboard cutouts. Because like, for fuck's sake, the rest of the gang was more interesting than our two final villain, and having like the final thing that Grant did before he died is just giving Spindo more gas. He summed up his entire stance. He's just a tool for Spindo. And again, I'm going to say it again, like, it would have worked so much better if we got to see Chashiro and Grant actually interacting, because you can say that, oh, like Chashiro is some sort of a tool for Taya, but he's not. Like, he's still own person, and Taya trusts him to do the good thing. While like, it seems that Spindo is like, no, you're doing what I tell you, and it's like you can draw that connection. And for how much it was very predictable that Bundarios would come back. Like I said it, it's super fucking obvious, but leaving it to the final episode was genuinely tasteful. I actually was surprised that they actually like waited, and it's like, no, we're doing it in the final episode. That was great. And like the full team roll call was like genuinely cool. Like, The Rangers got to have a helmetless roll call. That's neat. But, like, the quote-unquote final fight with Spindo kind of felt underwhelming. Mainly because it was just Bundario's entire just one-shotting Spindo. Like, I get it. Like, all of the rest of the Boonboomgers kind of like hand them their powers. Like, oh, there's a gun, but like, could have been a cool fight scene. Like, I get it. Like, Bundario's suit is, I would not say very, I would say, flexible in the fighting style. But come on, you could have worked it out. It would have been slightly cool. While having Bundario's entire trying to somehow reform Spindo, trying to say, hey, put yourself in and like you can maybe get better. And like Spindo kind of telling him, no, like that wouldn't help. Like humans, Earth is a bad place. Like the screaming, because of that we went for it, because it's literally, it's a big void of just gasoline. Humans fight, they scream, they fear, they hate. This is what we want. This would not change. I can live and Earth would stay the same, which is so fucking cool. But then it's like he asked them before he started the big speech, like, oh, why didn't you kill me? Like, and they kind of explain, we want you to reform and stuff. And he went to the really interesting speech, and then he willingly died. At least I think so, because like he turned into dust. And I feel like Bundario's and not Grant Risk and Spindo are of the same race, which is kind of funny. But like, and turning into dust is pretty much decaying, which like all of us do decay like that. So it's like, oh, but for them it happens just faster. But it's like, I don't know. That felt kind of like, just kind of anticlimactic. It's like, oh, no big explosion. It's just like, really cool, interesting speech. And then he got orphanoced. Yeah. Well, like, I love that when, before the episode came out, like, we got some shots of some clips of the episode, and it's like, oh, we see Shirabe with a Boonboom changer, and she's like holding it up, like she's about to transform, and the entirety of like, I don't know, the Toku community kind of like, oh my god, she's going to transform to a Boonboomger. Let's not forget, there was this coaster pack that has one coaster that is a mystery. And then the episode came out, and it's like, I remember seeing it and was like, she's not going to transform. I already got clickbaited once by Boonboomger. I'm not going to do it again. And when she pulled out the Boonboom changer and you see the situation, it's like, she ain't transforming. She pretty much used it as a controller to stream the entirety of pretty much Lightning Tech and the old ISA's kind of conversation with the Hashirians. Pretty much saying, yeah, look, they're the bad guys. And they got caught and they went to jail. Neat. How much? Yeah, she didn't turn into a Boonboomger, but she is still a Boonboomger. And also the director of the ISA, which was neat. Like, to be honest, it's a much better role for her character. Because like you can clearly see that was really the big build up. It's like her kind of like being in charge. It felt obvious. And having the show end with the team going out to space, which is like, fuck. Like, I wish Break would have stayed on Earth, because it would have been like, oh, like, let's do something interesting with Break. But have them go to space to compete in the BBGP was cool. Am I upset that, like, we don't get the BBGP? Yeah. Do I think we would have ever gotten it in the show? No. Don't you forget one thing. And that is, the BBGP parts would be heavily CG and, like, how Sentai and Rider really work things out with their CG department is like maybe episode to episode. Maybe it's like they work on, let's say, 12 and 13 when like 10 comes out. So it's like you wouldn't have the CG team would not have the time to actually do it all. So I think like that was kind of a cost saving measure for them to actually do that. I am upset because like the entire point was like, oh, bring Bundarios, delivering Bundarios to the BBGP and having like after them the Phoenix Spindo, all of what like Bundarios did, and pretty much having their license be revoked was apprehended, it was shoved under the rug, it was thrown away, and they can compete back. It was cool, but like I don't know, it just felt odd. I don't know, it's just like it's happening and we're going to give back the necklace to the movie lady. I haven't watched the movie yet. Again, Gridman, blame Gridman. But having Sakito staying on Earth, I think was a perfect conclusion to his character. Let's not forget the amount of times like, I can leave Earth, I don't really give a shit. I'm fine because I hate the Boonboomger. And it's like now he's like kind of like taking the role of like, oh no, I get why Tai is fighting for it, which was beautiful. I really loved it. It was really nice also. It's like, you know, Sakito really tried to goad D to actually go on and compete with Bundarios in the BBGP, but then it's like, you know what, no, I don't want to go out and compete in the BBGP, I want to be with you. It's like, oh, they really, like, again, it shows how much D and Sakito are really close. They're pretty much family, and they're not going to separate. They're not going to separate them, in my opinion. This episode was tough. Really is. Because, like, it feels like this episode hit the ball really hard, and it almost landed. But it never really hit that home run. Because it missed beats. Like, mainly because the final villain getting their backstory kind of like told to us in the final episode before they die kind of felt underwhelming. Like, this entire episode could have been the big build up to pretty much like the final episode. Like, in my opinion, you could have done that. But it just felt like, man, like this show never really had at one point. They had an idea and it kind of diverted. And this kind of shows how much it's like, oh, they really diverted from what they really wanted to do. And this episode kind of felt like fixing bits of like the frailing hairs that Boonboomger really had. I don't know, it's like giving your final villains a backstory and then immediately killing them just feels kind of like we're trying to wrap up the story as fast as we possibly can. This episode, if we would have gotten the backstories way before and we got to have the interaction between Taya and Spindo more and Shashiro and Grant Risk more, this episode could have gotten an S, even an S plus in my opinion. But due to the circumstances of the show being what the show is, this episode gets a B, which I think is kind of synonymous with Boonboomger now, which a B is not bad, to be honest. Like, the internet kind of ruined us in reviews of like media. It's or it needs to be fucking terrible or a masterpiece. No, like, you can have a show that is genuinely good but has some problem. A B is still like an 8. It's still good enough. But as a show, Boonboomger was fine, even great, but it fell off the mark to be better than what it actually was. If the show would have picked up a slightly tighter narrative and actually kind of like went with the characters and more with the feelings of getting your hands on the wheel, deciding your own destiny. Like, that could have worked so much better, because my opinion, some of the characters just got stuck. Taya, Chanshiro, you can say a little bit of Sakito, you can say a little bit of Break, but it's like, man, some fucking characters just felt like they're walking in place. And having them be developed more and having them interact with the villains could have probably helped them a lot more, and it could have helped the show to be so much better. I still believe that Madrex is still the best villain out of the show. Right after him it was Spindo, because like Spindo was at least a caricature and he was kind of interesting. Then it was Cannonborg. I'm sorry, at least like when Cannonborg did show up, he was fucking interesting. And then like the final main villain being this race is like, in my opinion, the worst villain out of the group. He barely shows up, he barely done anything, and when he finally really got to fight, he lost. He never really felt that interesting. Like, the only like really good characters that came out of the Hashidians, the bad guys, kind of turned out to be the trio, which I think should have been the point. Like, at the beginning I was like, maybe I would like them, I don't know, to absolutely loving them and loving the journey they went on, because they actually gave the characters some sort of a fucking arc. That was cool. And having Bundarios and D be the robots of the season, the mechas of the season, and having them have a personality and talk and interact with the rest of the team worked. Which, like, I'm still surprised that was after King Oger, when King Oger was all about the mech. And it's like the mech didn't really have even a voice. It's like, oh my god. Sendai can still do that, which was fucking great. Character like Shirabe was really fun, like teetering the line between being a bad guy at first and then turning to be the complete babyface that everybody loves. That was fun. Like, she as a character kind of like was some sort of a, hey, here is the fan perspective, which was fucking cool. And for our Rangers, here's the thing. I don't know really how to say it. Some characters really shined, and you can clearly see the love and care that the writings had for them, while others kind of felt slightly neglected, while the rest kind of got like shafted, to be honest. Like, we can all agree that Mira was kind of the star of the show. How much we all, I think all of us, hyped up the entire idea of her being a part-time worker and she would jump from job to job, which never really happened in the long run. Most of the time we just saw her in like Taya's base of operation, and when the episode needed it, she would do a random ass job. It's not like a main point of her character, to be honest, and I think like the description of her kind of being a part-time worker was kind of a bit too much. And because of that, like Gojo Wolf, I am just kind of like, hey, it would be nice to see him jumping from job to job, but I don't see him actually doing that. But having her pretty much start the show with no really needs in life, no real like motivation, not really knowing what she wants to do, but when she meets Taya, she saw how much he loves doing what he's doing, so she decides to do the same. She is, in my opinion, the perfect representation next to the next character to the show's main theming, and that is control your own destiny, do what you want to do, actually try to achieve your dream. She is, in my opinion, the star shining example of how to portray a female heroine, which fucking works. Then there is Joe, which for a different time, he would just be the absolute comedy relief and nothing would actually get resolved with him. But he's not all jokes all the time. In my opinion, he's truly the heart of the show. Like, genuinely, you can actually get to see like a full arc with him. Like, when he's getting the hands on the wheel, he really becomes a hero by himself without the duties of being a cop, believing that when he feels it's right to act, he would do that, He doesn't care if he would just quit the force because he understands what it like to be a hero. He literally would say, it's like, you can hate us, but I know we're doing the right thing. We're protecting you and I don't need your thank yous, which is great. Like, literally, in my opinion, most of the time, if it's a like Joe focused episode, it would be the most memorable one. Like, everybody remember the fossil dinosaur. Everybody remember the episode with the kids. Like, he's genuinely like really fun. And like in the latter half of the show, when ISA agent Miami was close, when she pretty much tells like Joe to stand down, don't do that, and he's like, I don't give a shit, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm quitting the force. That was such a cool thing. Like, having the idea of now understanding that being a hero doesn't mean that you need to wear a badge is fucking incredible. Like, he's so good. You can actually see that like Mira and Joe were like the star examples of what the writing team can actually do with their heroes. And this is kind of where you kind of see the little gaps between, like, I would not say the focus of the characters, I'm not even saying the quality of the characters, but kind of like how much some characters got more than others. Then there is a break, because I already talked about breaks. Let's just talk about the fucking Break character. As a character, he was like genuinely fun. The reveal of him being an alien was really cool, mainly because his backstory actually worked really well with the show's like main story. How much if he wasn't an alien, I think, like, to be honest, let's be really honest with y'all, I believe he and the next character would have swapped places. Like, but the problem is with Break as a character, how much he was nice, how much, like, when he got to be his own character with his own, like, missions and his own kind of story was cool. The problem is, like, the entire, like, third arc that was very much advertised as Break's arc, yeah, it wasn't really his. It was way more about Mad Rex, while Break was mostly in the background. So it's like, I just wish that show would have done slightly more with him. Like, having him be revealed as an alien, having some sort of a goal of releasing his father from prison is cool, but not really, you know, continuing on with that and trying to at least invoke the same type of feeling towards other people would have actually been slightly better. Again, having your own arc being advertised and then kind of like being swapped under the rug and kind of like slapped Mad Rex on it, it's kind of annoying in my opinion. Like, I love that the brief moments that we got after that arc of helping Taya no matter what, helping Sakito no matter what, like breaking parts of his ship to help Taya to defeat Spindle was great. How much in the end they went to space, and it's like, ah, like they can just do that. I don't know, like, I feel like he would have been so much cooler if he actually stayed on Earth. I'm sorry, like, maybe it's just me, but like, I think Break would have stayed on Earth while Sakito goes with the rest of the team to space would have been kind of an interesting goal. While how much everybody heard everyone's complaint about Sakito as a character. How much? Yeah, like, Sakito never really felt like the true six of the show. I even stated that he felt like an extra ranger, mainly because he really wasn't. Like, if you think about it, he never really joined the Boonboomgers. Like, he, as a character, never joined the team. So, yeah, he is an extra ranger. He is like the black ball from Gingaman. He's not a sixth ranger, he's just there. I don't know, like, I really liked him because he was genuinely like a fun character. And when the show actually gave him something to do, it worked. Like, I still believe that his end breaks scene from episode 32, if I remember correctly, 32, when they were pretty much like wrestling when Tokyo Rokugo was reffing their like wrestling match, and like you can see Sakito pretty much trying to convince Break to rejoin the Boonboomger was great. Again, shows how much he cares about the rest of the team's feelings and how much he understands from another point of view that Break as a member of the Boonboomger works. Like, his starting rivalry with Taya was fun. Even how much like the show really weirdly, again, when Toei revealed Sakito as a character, they said, oh my god, chaotic, and like people really felt like he's going to be kind of like this anti-hero type of character was, and I think we all kind of got caught up with a lot of the hype for Boonboomger. He worked as a character, he was really fun. I really enjoyed him. How much, yeah, like, it was kind of stupid to have all the DX Robo stuff with him, but hey, maybe he was genuinely popular enough, because like, from everything that I've seen, like, live, show-wise, like, he's getting like the big cheers. So maybe we're just in the wrongs about it. And like, I loved how much he always proclaims like, hey, I don't really give a shit about Earth. I'm fighting the Hashirians because the Hashirians are the bad guys and I don't like them. But having him in the end be the one that stays on Earth kind of makes sense. It shows how much he grew as a person. And then we got Chashiro. How much I would say his swerve turn was bad because the show didn't really show us him getting actually closer to the Hashirians, which in the end hurt him and the Hashirians, but I truly believe he and Sakito were pretty much in the same spot. But the show kind of went slightly more lazier with Chashiro, and just because of that, Sakito got a bit higher than Chashiro. I think if Chashiro would have, let's say, had more of the Hashirians and have him interact more with them, it would have actually helped him more. Like, as a character, he was interesting because like Taya's backstory, he was shrouded in mystery. His work as a spy for the ISA means that at some point he might return to them. And how much that moment did happen wasn't good in the end. Because like, if you think about it, we didn't got the actual resolution of that. We didn't get to see everything out of it. So having Chachiro, a character that we know would do everything for Taya, turn, not be shown anymore or barely, and then turn back, kind of felt empty. Like, in my opinion, he was the one that had his hand on the wheel for the longest time because he probably came up with the idea of the plan. And you know what, like, his story with Taya worked. Like, I don't know why, but it just felt like, oh, from the moment he met Taya, he kind of understood what he wants to do, which was fucking great. Again, I just wish that, you know, that the show would have done more with him. And then we finally got Taya. As you can understand, I don't hate Taya's character, but I'm very much indifferent to him, mainly because I think he could have been he could have been better. Like, because I really feel like the glimpses that we've got of him, specifically in this kind of like final 5 episodes, were the best that he actually was. Like, the idea of being hopeless, the idea of like trying to kind of figure out shit and try to somehow climb out of an obstacle was great. Him dedicating himself to actually revive B as much as he can was great. You can actually start seeing his mask slipping. But that was it, because outside of those final 4 episodes, Taya is a bit bland. Like, outside of the teacher that he got a crush on, and the incident that made him a hero, and the incident that pretty much made him, it's like, okay, I need to go up faster, this is the only thing that we know of. I don't give a shit about how he got his wealth, but I want to know him as a character. Like, outside of him being cranked up and wanting to do good, we don't know enough about him. Like, if you think about it, we maybe know enough about him, because here's the thing, he heard Boondonos' backstory. Boondonos told him that he was an Ashirian, he was a part of the bad guys' gang, and he still wanted to trust them, and he was so moved by their backstory, he decided that, hey, I am going to save you, I'm going to deliver your dream. It was fucking beautiful, but like, man, he at some point should have gotten more of a backstory. He should have gotten way more development, because in the end, outside of the final 4 episodes, he never really struggled as much. He never really climbed any big obstacles. Like, to be honest, I wish that the show like challenged him more, because like in the end, Taya is kind of like a blank, bland, cool guy Red. And I think, in my opinion, it would have worked better if at least he, I don't know, was a bit of a douche at first. It would have been better. Overall, Boonboomger is very much like, the theming of the show is getting your hands on the wheel, being your own responsible person, achieving your dream, which is beautiful, and it's a beautiful thing to tell everyone. But as a show, Boonboomger, when it was good, and the highs were fucking amazing, but when Boonboomger hit down below and kind of like, you know, wasn't that great, it wasn't bad. And that's the thing. It was, in my opinion, worse than bad. It was kind of boring. Here's the thing, like, I would recommend people to watch Boonboomger. I'm not even saying it's a bad show, it's perfectly good. It's perfectly okay. And it's fine. It's serviceable. Sometimes it actually did a lot better than, in my opinion, Boonboomger. I think most of their crossovers with the rest of the Sentais were neat. How much I think the Boonboomger crossover was kind of mediocre, and in my opinion, the Tokyoger crossover was fucking amazing. It did well enough. I think it did the bad guys really shady. I think some of the stuff with our Rangers could have done better, specifically with Chashiro and Taya. But I still believe that Boonboomger as a whole is a B. Straight up. Like, I'm thinking I'm going to just change the B from, what's my B? I think my B is build. Like, I don't believe it's build anymore. I think it's Boonboomger. So, I am still happy that the Cranktop Sentai actually took me out for a spin. And you know what? Thank you. Now, for next week, I'm ready to battle to be the #1 Toku reviewer on YouTube. Join me on #1 Sentai Gojuger. So, what's your thoughts about Boonboomger, not only episode 48, but the entire season as a whole? Comment below, let me know. If you liked this extremely long video, please smash that like button. Also, if you haven't helped your subscribe button achieve its true goal of becoming a subscribed button, please smash that subscribe button. Don't forget, you're the only one that can prevent forest fires. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day. Bye bye!